Welcome back, players and collectors, to my channel, Ren's Collectibles. Today we're going to talk about something that is probably not going to be easy for some people to hear, but there's some good and bad with this discussion, and that is what happened to indie trading card games. There used to be, over the last 4 years, there has been such a surge and such a boom in indie trading card games. And now, if you look at it, they're almost all entirely gone or on the downswing. And you just got to kind of sit there and wonder, what happened to them? Now, not all are fails or, bad stories. There's some that are great successes that have moved on and are continuing to move on to bigger and better things. There's some that are, were small and have stayed relatively small, but the communities are strong. And in my opinion, that makes their game a success. But there is lots of them that went out, with some fireworks and had some big bangs and really caught the attention of a lot of people and then fizzled out almost as fast as they came onto the scene. And, it's kind of got me, and it's got a bunch of other people sitting there kind of going, what happened? And, where did all these games go? And we're going to just talk about them a little bit. This is an open discussion, so feel free to put your thoughts down below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So if you go all the way back to the late stages of 2020, as the pandemic was happened or just started to happen, there was one game that released a Kickstarter that initially did not gain popularity right away, but it started something that would turn into a wildfire for indie developers and indie games, and that was Metazoo. Now, Metazoo, I know some people are probably either, going, yay, or they're twitching and shuddering at the sound of it and the thought of it, but Metazoo started something that exploded into a massive fireball, wildfire explosion. Yes, that's very descriptive, I know. But it started something that over the last 3.5 years has been, it's been great, to be honest. It started something great, but something unsustainable, and we've kind of seen that. Now, I say that, though, because there's been some really awesome TCGs, and there's some awesome games that came from it that I personally am very fortunate for, and I know a lot of other people have their own games and niches that they love and they belong in. So it's been great, but a lot of people lost money on it, which is bad. But here's kind of the thing. I've said it from the very beginning. My stance on indie trading card games was always the same. And go back on my channel. You can find them. I have videos where I talked about people were looking at indie trading card games all wrong, and they were going to get hurt by it. And that's because people saw Metazoo and the success that it had and decided that they were going to make indie trading card games their cash cow, their money-making schemes. And that is the largest reason most of these TCGs failed. I'm just going to put it out there like that. And Metazoo is the gleaming, bright, shining example of that. Their Kickstarter got $18,000. They had a goal of $10,000. They got $18,000. Think about that. Metazoo only got $18,000 on their Kickstarter, but people saw potential in it. Some big whales saw potential in it and decided to invest. That word right there, invest. That's what really started everything off, what made it blow up to as big as it was, but also killed it. It was the poison that killed Metazoo and a lot of these other games. Metazoo got all this money, and all of a sudden people are just running to the scene to get in on the action. They wanted those Kickstarter boxes. They wanted that first print run of whatever that first set was called. Cryptid Nation. That's what it was. I had already forgotten. And people started to just go nuts over it. And at the same time, trading cards in general were just becoming big. Pokemon started to see a massive surge, but you had you had big people like Logan Paul and, you know, Gary, King Pokemon really coming out. Gary was always part of the Pokemon community. Let me just, you know, clarify that. But they started coming out. He started hosting some sessions with Logan Paul and all these big people, big popular names to get Pokemon out there. And the cards started exploding. People started going to stores to just ransack stores, essentially steal their product and go, right? Everybody wanted a piece of the action. And that got other people, that got creative minds that were not into the scene to start creating these games, most of them which were awesome, to get money, to build up this idea that they once had and make it a physical reality. And it was awesome, right? Almost all the time it was awesome. There were some games that were scams. So people saw the opportunity there and just wanted to make a quick buck and ran. And we're looking at you, Mythics. It's Mythics with an X at the end, not to be confused with any other TCG. Mythics with an X, which meant stay away. But there was a lot of good games that came out of it, and it was a great idea. It was a great time to put these ideas out there. All these games that came about, you know, had some phenomenal backings and were fantastic at the time. You know, you had a bunch of games. You know, Grand Archive came out, Sorcery came out, Cryptic came out, Alpha Clash, Mythic with a K, Mythik. That's a good game. Nostalgics. Golly, there's just so many big ones. Primal. There's just so many good games that came out over the last few years. But ultimately, a lot of them saw their own demise just as fast as they started. And, you know, there were a lot of people that were saying from the beginning, don't invest into these games. They're not long-term things. You're going to have to put money in, let it get to the top real fast, and pull out. You know, it's like stocks, like investing. So what ultimately killed a lot of these games is the fact that majority of the people buying into these games early stages were people literally doing just that, putting a ton of money into a game, waiting for it to get at its peak, and then pulling it all out, selling everything they have, just trying to dump and get rid of to double or triple their money, and then move on to the next TCG that was starting on Kickstarter so they could do the same things again. A lot of these games did not see real organic growth or see real fans, real collectors, real players trying to get into their games. And I mean, Metazoo is the perfect example of that because they ended up going on to be the greatest, most explosive, expensive, most invested in TCG that we've seen in recent times. And then its downfall and its collapse just showcased on such a great extent how bad of a design this structure was. Like they were building these towers made out of paper, and once somebody lit the match and put it up, the whole thing just came crumbling down so fast, right? Metazoo was one that they were only in it for the money ever. From the start, that's all Metazoo was in it for, was just the money. They were trying to do whatever they could to make money. And you know, part of the reason why they failed, though, is, and why some of these other TCGs have failed is, you know, part of it is because they chased the money, but the other part is they tried their hardest to be the big three TCGs. They tried to be Pokemon, they tried to be Magic, and they tried to be Yu-Gi-Oh! And they can't do that. They couldn't do it, and they shouldn't have done it. I said that from the beginning. You cannot do that. You should not invest money into a game that you think you're going to get back. On any of these indie TCGs, you put money into them, know that it's gone. It's gone. You're not going to recoup that money. If you're okay with that, proceed, right? If you enjoy the cards, if you enjoy playing with the cards, you enjoy collecting them, and you know that there's going to be little to no monetary value associated with them later on, and you're okay with that, perfect. You were the audience that should have been targeted from the beginning, because let's be real here. They were never going to make money, and it was never going to be sustainable that way. I mean, even look at Pokemon right now. Pokemon is still going strong. But their cards are not worth much at all because they just print so much of it. But people don't invest in Pokemon even the way they did 3 years ago because they know that it's not worth that much money. It's going to take another 10, 15, 20 years for the cards that are modern right now to be worth anything, potentially anything. I mean, trying to build these collections and get all these cards and, you know, buying cases on cases on cases just to chase these certain cards is not going to work. If you're a collector, you generally enjoy the cards, that's awesome. Do it. That's what it's there for. And that's the only way you're going to see success in these games. Right? So we look at some of these games, you know, you got games like I mentioned before, you know, Interstellar, Akora, I'm trying to think, Cryptic, all these games that came out that had just such huge followings from the beginning. You went to CollectiCon or GenCon or any of these conventions, and these TCGs were there. They were representing, and they were doing all the things right. People were buying into them. They were creating these promos, and people were going all out and going nuts for them. Where are they all now? They're gone. They're all gone. They've shut their doors because they could not build a community that would last. And that was it. That was my point. That was a lot of people's points from the beginning. Hey, caution. And this is coming from somebody who loves indie trading card games. I've got a bunch of them. I still have sealed boxes and stuff on shelves. I've got displays of cards, you know, like I love them. But I bought into them knowing that I was never going to make money off of them. That was never once my goal. I didn't buy booster boxes of all these games to try to resell later on. I bought them to open and play the cards or collect the cards. I'm very happy with my collections and with my investments into these games. A lot of people weren't. A lot of people put money into it to try to get money back out of it, and then when they couldn't, they left. They dumped what they could at extremely low prices and bounced, and games died. It's sad. It's sad, but that's the way it happened. I mean, even Titan TCG, man, that was going to be such a good TCG. That was such a promising good TCG, but, you know, they chased money. The unfortunate event of their creator passing was the ultimate door closing scenario there. But they were chasing money too. They were doing everything that all these other TCGs were doing. He was doing these whatnot streams. He was trying to pump these cards up so high so he can make a ton of money off of them. I don't know if that game would have lasted, if it would have gone anywhere. It was such a good idea. Using mythology, real mythology and history to build a game off of is such a fantastic idea. And that's why I think games like Mythic are primed to be here for the long run. They might be small, but they're going to be here for the long run. And you had games like Akora that have recently shut doors. Their community just dwindled to a point where they were not making enough. They weren't making any money at all anymore. When they, 2-3 years ago, they had a ton of people in the game, but it was because people were trying to flip the product. They were trying to resell everything for a larger dollar, and they couldn't. So they dumped and got rid of it. And then when those guys, those whales, those investors left, they were left with nothing, and they couldn't sustain themselves. Same with all these other TCGs. I mean, another good example is Cryptic TCG. I think Cryptic is awesome. I always liked it from the very beginning. They did too much. They tried to get too many people to invest in the game as opposed with playing the game and collecting it organically. They did too much. Those players left. Chum Lee, when he stopped promoting the game, people saw that. They started dumping product and leaving. All of a sudden, they don't have enough money to continue their game. People left. Now, I will say with Cryptic, I do love Cryptic. I think they're such a cool game. And I'm actually thinking about buying some more boxes of their first 2 sets just to have so I can start opening for myself to enjoy. And again, this is money invested into these games that I know I am not going to make money off of. I am solely buying them for the enjoyment, my own personal pleasure, and just to collect and have like some really awesome cards. Cryptic is a cool story though, because it all seemed like it was going dark. They actually shut their doors to the TCG for a couple days. And the thing that you always hoped that would happen is they listened to their community and decided to reverse course and then continue on the TCG. It just took the CEO and creator of the game to step down, and some changes to be made to the structure and the team, the Cryptic team. And now they're forging a new path, strictly running off of what the community wants, which is the way the game should have been from the start. You know? They drew in these players, these collectors, this community, because of a certain direction the game was going. And then once they started to deviate and do all these other projects that had nothing to do with the game or the community, but it had something to do with investing and making money, that's when they started losing. It's the same thing with Metazoo. Metazoo was doing too many things. They were trying to do promos for every little thing. They were trying to do all this, that, and the other. Skateboards, rugs. They were trying to do so much, so fast, that got away from the thing they were designed for, which was the TCG. They stretched themselves too thin. They collapsed very quickly. Same thing with Cryptic, in my opinion. They stretched themselves out. They try to do so many things to try to reach as many people as possible too quickly, stretched themselves too thin, collapsed. They're coming back, which is a great thing. And I highly encourage you guys check out Cryptic TCG and look into them. Great game. But all these games, and like I said, Akora and Interstellar. What happened to Interstellar? They were such a cool TCG as well. They were a late bloomer. I think they came at the later stages of the TCG boom. They were awesome. I thought their cards were cool. Boom, gone. They're just like, they've ghosted everybody. They haven't posted on their social media accounts. You can't even like get onto their Discord anymore. I can't get onto it. They're gone. They just like took the money and ran. In my opinion, that feels a lot like Mythics with an X. Remember, Mythics, the scam. And a lot of there's actually quite a few TCGs that did that same thing, and it's nuts. It's absolutely mind blowing. There are some successes out of the indie TCG boom, though. There are, and they're not to be taken lightly. I think these are great games that people should look into, but you have to look into them as a collector or a player. You cannot look at them as investment opportunities. I'm telling you now, if you look at these games as investment opportunities to make money, you're going to fail. Flat out, you're going to fail. You have to be okay with putting money into these games, and know that you're probably not going to get your money back. I mean, heck, even Pokemon to an extent is that way. You could buy a booster box and know you're only going to get about $10 in cards out of it. You have to be okay with that risk and know and accept and understand that it's going to happen. You're probably not going to make your money off of it. If your mindset is making money, you're going to fail. You're going to fail and you're going to have a bad time. But there are some TCGs that have just been doing things right. I think the biggest TCG, indie TCG, that has been doing things right is Elestrals TCG. And I'm saying that as somebody who didn't necessarily like the TCG at first. I wasn't impressed. I felt like it was trying to be a clone copy of Pokemon, and I didn't really look at it at the beginning. But I've watched them. I've watched A Drive have some issues with this TCG. Dial everything back. Say, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to do the community right. We're not looking for people to dump money in and resell and make this, an investment opportunity. We're going to pause. We're going to pull things back. We're going to make sure the players and the collectors, the real community, is taken care of before we move on. That's exactly what they did. They are succeeding right now. I'm just going to say they are succeeding. They're succeeding so well, in fact, that I'll try to put a screenshot of here. They're trending on TCGplayer.com. They have not put a dime forward to making themselves on the website. They are trying to organically create demand for their own game in their community to be on TCG Player. They didn't buy their way in like some other games did. They're trying to just say, hey, our game is so good and our game is popular enough that people want these cards. Let's put them on here. They are trending on TCG Player organically. That's a huge plus. On top of that, they've got phenomenal cards. They've got a web or an app developed, a game developed, a program. I think you can play it on your computer, maybe, but I know for sure you can play it on your phone. They're doing better, in my opinion, than, well, I won't say that. They're doing great, though. I was going to say they're doing better than a Lorcana, but Lorcana's obviously just got the brand of Disney, so they're big. But even Lorcana doesn't have their own program, their own game yet. So, I mean, it is what it is. Elestrals is doing everything the right way, though, and they're doing everything organically. He's building the community strong. He's on social media all the time, posting things and promoting the game. He's got people that he's sending kits out to. Like me, he sent me a creator kit. Who am I? I'm a small nobody creator, you know? I'm not that big. I'm not a real Breaking Nate or a Leonhard or anybody like that. But yet they see the value in small creators who can reach audiences and talk realistically, and they like that. They appreciate that. So, I mean, to me, I've watched what they've done. They've turned somebody who was not into the game into the game. I think that's big. Another TCG that I think is succeeding and will continue to succeed for a long time. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I don't think they're going to quit. They're not going to shut doors. It's because they've done everything right from the beginning, in my opinion. That's Mythic TCG with a K, Mythik, Mythic. Now, again, they are taking the idea that I loved so much from the beginning that I wish Titan would have still been around for. They're taking mythology and history and throwing it in a game. I love mythology. I love history. They had me at that. I was late to the game. I didn't know anything about Mythic. I didn't really see anything about Mythic until about, a year ago, 2 years ago? Something like that. It was well after their initial Kickstarter. But I've been part of the community now for a little while, and I've watched to see how well they operate and handle things. And I'm going to be honest, for a small community, they are run very well. They're run very effectively. I've had talks with Max, the creator and CEO of the game, and I have no issues with the game whatsoever. I have no concerns about the game closing doors anytime soon. Like, I just don't. It's honestly probably the indie TCG game that I have the most trust and faith that it's going to just slowly chug along and keep going for a long time. Mythic TCG, I can buy 3-4 booster boxes. I'll spend, $300 investing into the game, knowing that I'm not going to make a dime off of it. And I'm more than okay with it because the cards are beautiful. The game design is super fun, and it's something that interests me. It's mythology, it's history. There's so much to it as well. There's so much mythology and so much history in our world that their landscape is unlimited. I know they're not going to run out of creativity anytime soon. I know they're not going to run out of, things to make cards off of and make sets out of. They're well built. They never cater to investors. They only cater to players and collectors. That's been the community from the very beginning. They might be small. I think they only got $14,000 on their original Kickstarter, and yeah, I think that was at $14,000. and their community is still, relatively small, but it's growing. Every day there's more people joining the Discord. There's more people interacting, people buying the cards, looking at the game, playing the game. It's not dying off. There's not people leaving the community in droves. It's because the community was built the right way from the beginning. I love Mythic TCG. I'm here for them in the long run. They're here for us in the long run. Again, I don't think Mythic's going anywhere anytime soon. The way it's ran, I'm going to say it like this. They do not need games like Cryptic and Akora and all them. They did so much that they ran out of money so fast, they could not produce further sets. Mythic is not that way. Everything Mythic makes, they reinvest back into the next set or creating new things, small things, but they're doing it in small quantities so it appeases to the collectors, but also enough to where their players can get their hands on it, and then if future demand is there for it, they will consider pulling some money to do it again. That's the way these small games should operate until they get big enough on a larger scale to where they can, fully operate and kind of like industrialize themselves. They're doing everything the right way. I love Mythic. I love how it's ran. The community is fantastic. I'm all for it. Another game that I truly love and believe in is VaultX TCG. You guys know that. I've been with VaultX, for a long time, a few years. They've actually had me come out to GenCon and Collecticon to help represent them. I've done videos for them for a few years now. It's just been fantastic. They're another one that I think showed they have what it takes to go the distance. I'm just going to put out there. They were the largest grossing TCG on Kickstarter in Kickstarter history before, what's that new one? Altered? I don't know. Whatever that game is that came out like last summer that beat them. They had huge demand, but they had huge whales too. They had the same problem everybody else had. Too many people buying into the game for the initial Kickstarter for the purpose of reselling and making money. And it looked like for a hot minute there, they were going to suffer the same fate. People started dumping the products at super low prices, jumping out of the community, abandoning ship. But Zaba and his team never got worried. Like, they never panicked and made mistakes. What did they do? They dialed it back. They had plans for doing 3 sets a year. They dialed it back. They did 1 set a year with the prospect of maybe doing a small subset or doing their secret shards. He dialed it back. He started dialing everything back to say, okay, hold on. We're not making the same kind of money we used to. All these people that dumped thousands of dollars into us that want to jump ship onto the next TCG because they're not making enough money, we need to dial it back. We need to cut back. We need to focus on our community. And the game is so community driven. Zaba does so much on Discord and on social media, puts feelers out there, puts polls out there. Hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you as a community think about this? And he's just so involved with the community. That's the reason the game is succeeding and moving on. Yes, people are going to look at it and go, oh my God, they made $1 million on Kickstarter and now they're only selling, 200 booster boxes. People are only looking at it from the monetary aspect. You're wrong. You got hurt. It's okay. Slap a Band-Aid on it. If you like the TCG, just buy into it. Know that you're not going to make money off of it. Play the game. The game is fantastic. The cards are fantastic. That's what you should be getting into. It's blown my mind over the years to see how many people have come and gone. And to just, even now, there's so many people that are sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I invested into X TCG and got hurt. I didn't make my money back. I don't know how I'm going to recover for this. What am I going to do? But it's because you looked at it wrong the whole time. And people have been saying it for years now. You can't do it that way. You should not look at it for money. There's so many people that love each game and collect their cards and collect them, play them. Join the communities for those reasons. Those are the real reasons you get into it. I mean, why do all of us love Pokemon? Why do we love Lorcana now? Why do we love, Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh? Why did we ever get into those TCGs? It was never about money. If it was, you're still wrong. You're probably still getting hurt. We get into these games because we love the cards. We love the game. We love the IPs. We're fans. We are fans of the game. Think about Pokemon people. They've got the video games they fell in love with. They've got the anime they fell in love with. The trading card game from way, way back in the 90s. People love the cards. They didn't get into it because they thought this is going to be worth money somewhere down the road. They got into it because they liked the cards. They liked the art. They loved having something they could collect. And then they liked playing the game. That's exactly how we should be focusing on indie TCGs. They're fun to play. They're fun to collect. I like looking at the cards. I like having these physical cards in my hand. I like what the IP is. I like what the brand is. That's the reasons we should be getting into these games and focusing on these games. Not money. Get money out of it. Dump the money. It shouldn't be there at all. I know there's always going to be people like that in the game. And yes, some cards might be worth hundreds of dollars at some point. Even Pokemon has some cards that are worth, $150. Who cares? If you pull it and you sell it, great. I'm happy for you. When you buy a booster pack, you don't expect to get that $150 card. You expect to pay your $5 and probably get nothing out of it. That's the way it should be, though. You should enjoy. You should want the chase. You should want to collect the cards. If you like just buying the singles and collecting the cards you like, beautiful. Collect what you like to collect. Play what you want to play. Don't get into these games for any other reason. You shouldn't. And don't kick other people down for liking these games as well. There's so many people that invested into all these games and lost money, and now they're just sitting there trashing and talking so bad about all these indie games like it's their fault they lost their money. You lost your money. The games didn't. The games were there for people to enjoy, not to make money off of. You are the problem. If you're watching this and you're sitting there going, I lost all my money on this, I hate these games, you need to stop talking about them, you're the problem. You were the problem from the start, and you're the problem now. You've poisoned your own things that you invested your money into to the point where they all died off, and now you're bitter about it. That's your fault. Plain and simple. I never intended for this video to go on that long. Whew, it's been a big conversation, but I just want to say there's so many good indie games out there. Go check them out. Go give them some love. I mean, heck, look at Harry Potter. Harry Potter has a TCG. Some people don't know about that, but Harry Potter has a TCG. It died 20 years ago. The game got shut down, I think in 2004, actually. 20 years ago. There's people to this day that still play the Harry Potter TCG. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to stop you right there. If you have not played the game, or if you're trying to find a TCG that's easy enough to learn and get into, that is the game. Harry Potter TCG is fan-freaking-tastic. Love it. Everything. I'm going to pause here. Hold on. There's a Discord called the Harry Potter TCG Revival. There's a group 20 years later that are still playing this game. That's dedication. That is love. That's what people need to have for all these other TCGs. You need to love the TCG and just be good with it without the money aspect. Think about that. 20 years ago, a game died, and there's still people playing the game to this day. And it actually goes beyond that. They've created their own sets to continue the TCG on. That's amazing. It's fantastic. And for all these other indie games that we've talked about, if there's groups out there that love Akora, I hope they continue to collect and play Akora. And I hope that maybe they'll love it enough to where the people will pick it back up one day and start creating future sets. Even if they're fan-made sets, it doesn't matter. They're awesome. Why play the game? Collect the game, you know? I just want to throw that out there to say that just because a game has officially shut its doors too does not mean they're gone and you shouldn't collect them, especially if you like it. Just know that it's not an investment. If you put money into it, you're not going to get money out of it. But you could get enjoyment. You could get some personal pleasure out of it. And that's what they're there for. That's what they're supposed to be there for. But that's all I have time for today on this. This was a long one. I apologize. If anybody made it to the very end, if you made it to this point, let's drop a hashtag down below. Let's put hashtag indie game love. Let's do that. Hashtag indie game love. That way I know if you guys made it all to the end. I'm honestly not expecting many, if any, to make it in there. But yeah, let's just do that. Let's do that. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, happy hunting, happy TCG experiences. Go check out these games, give them some love, but remember to collect what you love to collect and play the games you love to play. That's all we have time for. We'll see you in the next one.